So here's a good question from Elena Heydrich. I hope I Heydrich or Heydrich. Hope I pronounced that right. She's asking if the E vowel brings out the higher overtones and the U brings out the lower overtones, generally speaking.
Yes, exactly.
Perfect. That was a very we love it when we have short and clear answers, right? But nice job, Elena, on hearing that. You'll just hear my voice. I'm going to leave it on Wolfgang because he's better looking anyway. So let's look here. Yeah, everybody is blown away by your tongue control, and thank you for those amazing exercises. I'm going to practice those as well. There's a question from Alexandra Ivanov. She says, "Is it seems like the tip of the tongue is moving up?" I think she's commenting when she saw the MRI of you having your tongue on the alveolar ridge.
Yes, in overtone singing, this actually is the case. One moment, I share it again.
And while you're getting that prepped, you got it prepped. But okay, go ahead and play that. Then I'll jump to the second question.
So if we move forward here, I put the tip of my tongue up in L position, and then I leave it there. So this is the alveolar ridge. You see only the bones, but here's some skin. So it's really touching the skin here. And I don't move the front part of the tongue anymore, but I have a resonance chamber here under my tongue. And this is, I call this L technique. And this is an overtone singing technique because I have a resonance here, creating this amplified overtone from my vowel, and then here another chamber with the same frequency, which amplifies this partial, and then I have a double resonance working on this one single harmonic. And if I go to higher overtones, I move from U, this is U, to vowel E by rising the resonance frequency here in the back part, and then in the same way, in the same time, the resonance chamber here gets smaller to match the high frequency created here. If someone is confused because I widened the chamber here, the resonance should go down actually. It's just the space I control to get the resonance here. But this is what I feel. We, you. So I say I control the second formant here. But the formant itself is created in the whole space. So probably this is the reason why in books it's written that the second formant is controlled here. But actually it's controlled in the whole space, and I feel this movement, so I tell you I control the second formant by this movement. This is the reason why I told this. And I actually can keep the tip of my tongue here in the front. And this is the overtone technique I use.
I think it's really...
The question, I'm not sure.
Oh, I think it's really fascinating. I think that we answered the question that the tip of the tongue is moving up. And then there's some... Now, I'm going to just ask you for your confirmation, but I'm understanding that this tongue position and this movement is very... This is your overtone singing technique.
Yes.
Right? Because it stands logically that I cannot make other consonants while keeping the tip of my tongue up on the alveolar ridge. I wouldn't be able to really pronounce any clear words. And I think when I was trying this out with everybody else, I noticed the same thing, and Gad and Elena again asked some questions. Several people said, do you ever experience tongue tension for singers learning this, or should I feel tongue tension? And I think maybe we get into this conflict when it's new. We're not used to having the tongue really in that position while we're vocalizing, right? We're used to maybe for the back tongue being in a different position, and then the tongue starts to resist a little bit. What are your experiences with helping people with that tongue movement, tongue tension?
It's completely normal. I experienced this in every student, that at first the tongue is a little bit under tension, too much muscles involved. But if you do this for 10 hours a day, then in the natural way your tongue will get tired and you still can sing overtones then. This is one of the techniques I derived from martial arts. If you do it wrong, then you can't do it for a long time. No, this is quite normal. When you start dancing and learning new dancing moves, then you are counting your steps and then get in a flow later when you know what you're doing. It's the same with the tongue. In overtone singing, the tongue is as relaxed as possible.
Yeah, I agree. I'm switching back and forth between us here. But it's great you said that. And the tongue has, I think, in my opinion, tension, this is a very real thing. Tension constriction gets in the way of all kinds of good, positive vocalization and singing, obviously. But I'm a big believer, and I just introduced my theory and philosophy in my course, is that if we concentrate more on dynamic movement, then if we can maintain the dynamic movement, then we will never have tension. Tension occurs when the dynamic muscle movement stops and gets tight. So I think it's just a little bit more positive mindset to keep things in motion and dynamic rather than focus on, oh, I've got tongue tension, I've got jaw tension. I know too many singers, they just are really stuck with that and they don't move through it, where the solution is training dynamic motion. So you gave us some exercises. Is that what those exercises are designed to do, is to help us move a little bit more smoothly through there? Did you get my question there?
It was a question. I thought it was a statement.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm accused of that a lot, just not asking questions, just saying it's like this. No, it's more of a statement. Yeah, but I just wanted the tongue exercise. You gave us some good exercises, and I'm understanding that that's what they're designed to do, is help us get a more fluid tongue movement in the right positions.
Yeah, if you want to apply these tongue techniques to classical singing, then the movement gives you the connection to speaking and normal singing with a different focus, so you can relax your tongue then. But when I teach this to students who want to learn overtone singing, they always go through different steps. In the beginning, it's just a strange movement of the tongue, to use only the back part of the tongue to do all the vowels. Because usually if we say we also move our lips to shorten the tube here, and this raises the frequency. So we don't have to move the tongue as much as in overtone singing. If I do this, I have to do a lot here in the pharynx part. So this is new to most people, and so they use a little bit tension because they are not used to the movement. And then there come different changes in the brain. First, the focus is on the tongue. Then the focus is on overtones. It goes to here. The movement of the tongue is controlled here by pitch movement, and then you try to control the pitch by the tongue movement. And so students are focused on overtones. Suddenly the overtone is beautiful and everything is relaxed, but they don't remember what they did. As soon as they concentrate on the tongue again, then they have tension again and the overtones are not beautiful anymore. So you have to wait until the brain halves connect easily, and the brain understands I move one frequency with my vocal cords and the other frequency I move with my tongue movement, and then you go into relaxation again.
That's very, very fascinating. Just getting the left-right brain halves in sync, right? It's kind of one of these actions, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And then when we're not quite ready, then the tension creeps in, and yeah.
There's one fascinating thing I found. I have an international choir, European Overtone choir, that usually meets once a year. It could meet for 2 times now due to COVID. But we meet for 1 week, and then there were people who were juggling. And those people who juggle with balls they're much quicker in learning overtone singing. So it has to do with the two brain halves.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy. So, yeah, but it's logical, right? Because often if you distract a singer through a movement or a gesture, a lot of times they relax and are able to sing better.
Mhm.
Because you get so set on that focus, it's very fascinating. Okay, let's before we just improvise here, let's move on. We've got a question about from Elena. Also, do you think VoceVista could be useful for CCM singing, contemporary singing?
CCM is
Contemporary style singing.
Yes, sure. I use it a lot because I'm doing contemporary music, the classical contemporary music. I don't know what it means, CCM. Is it contemporary pop music, commercial music, or is it contemporary classical?
Contemporary commercial music.
Oh, okay. Yes, as well. I, I, I now meant the classical experimental music. Then it's very helpful to learn new skills. But Um, I never used it for pop music, but the same physical laws apply for any kind of singing. So if you understand what your voice does and you know what your style needs, then you can use it for a kind of um, visual feedback. You can use it as a trigger um, to teach yourself focusing on some resonances, like
Well, I
which
know it's actually very common for a lot of professional CCM teachers to use Voce Vista, and they only teach uh, contemporary commercial music techniques. They don't teach classical at all, but they find it extremely helpful. There's another question we have from Elena. She's just rattling off the questions here, but it's a good question. And it says, it sounds like the student is modifying the vowel. Is that basically what we're listening for? You know, in the demonstration with Thomas Hampson. Yeah, we're listening. He was trying to get her to say the lächen, which in his voice and his range would work beautifully. But in her voice, in her range, which is in another pitch, it doesn't work at all. So yeah, it's about getting the right vowel, isn't it?
yes, the right vowel, and you make a compromise. You have first, your pitch is fixed by the composer. You are not allowed to change the pitch. If you, I share the screen and shortly describe the difference between speaking and singing. Um, if we have a tone, then this tone has a chord of overtones. And then we have a resonance and a second resonance. And this is a vowel. So let's say we have the vowel R, And now as a speaker, I go to low frequencies. These are the speaking resonances here. So they are quite low, female and male resonances. And I move my overtones through the resonance. Here's the resonance, and I say something like ah, 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 ah. So I move my overtones through the resonance. But in singing, my singing note is fixed, like G sharp in this song. And then I have to adjust my resonances to the pitch of my harmonics, the completely different strategy. And then I have only a very few resonance constellations that work with this. And I need to go on to a resonance because if I move my resonance to here, it's not activated. There is no resonance here. If the resonance goes here, it's not used by any sound energy. Here's no sound energy. And this is partly hard to understand if you haven't studied physics. But you experience it. If you go to this shape of your mouth that expresses this sound here, then you will feel that your voice doesn't work. It just doesn't start. It doesn't want to vibrate, only in a speaking way. So it's not if you open up to here. You can try it at home. If you change the vowel from a resonant position and just close your lips a little bit, then it will weaken the sound. It's like a decrescendo then immediately. And if you sing very loud, then probably your voice will start shaking or going to a different pitch or something like this.
Yeah, that's very fascinating. I mean, singers are often wondering, why is my voice not working on this note, on this vowel? How can I sing that? And often there's this, it's really about the right vowel on the right pitch, right? And often we want to reproduce the speaking vowels, even advanced singers. We want it to sound like it's normal. But there's this slight disconnect that you have to realize and learn that getting the right vowel for the right pitch actually sounds more like the words for the listener than if you sing the speaking vowel. And I think that takes a lot of time for singers to accept.
I can demonstrate how far you have to change your vowel. If I change the pitch here, you see the points. Those dots here represent the vowels that are in full resonance. So if you're out of this, you have between those here, you have a resonance on the second formant only, and between the two of those here, you have a resonance only on the first formant. And if you are here between both, then you have no resonance at all. And now if I change the pitch, you see how far this changes. You can sing oo sounds here, but no o sounds on this pitch. But speaking o is not possible on B3. And if you move up, you're not able to sing oo and e again here. You have to open your mouth to get in resonance. So, but the singing on this pitch and pronouncing e, speaking e, it sounds like the vowel e. You have a completely different perception of the vowel sound if you go to higher pitches. So you have to change this vowel triangle actually. And if you go, it's not very high. If you go to here, this is only E5. You have only 2 vowels left in resonance, and you sing almost all the text on these 2 vowels.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's exactly what I wanted to share. And we have a question from Orion as well. How can a singer align their resonance with their overtones when singing pop or classical? So that's pretty much the answer. I mean, we've in classical singing and CCM or um, singing and different styles of singing, coaches and teachers have talked about vowel modification for a long time, but thanks to your research and with the use of VoceVista, you can see very clearly why that vowel modification for the style of singing that you're doing works so well, and also how your perception needs to adjust because you're not really singing the vowel you think you are when it sounds like the vowel at a different pitch. And that's a little bit mind-blowing, but using this software like VoceVista, then you get and with this overlay of Wolfgang's work, you see where the resonances get a line, and that's, I think you can be very specific when you get there. I just want to say, for in the beginning, when you are learning to sing, you are developing a coordination, right? And the singing coordination, to be able to really change these nuances of vowels, that does take some time. So working with this stuff in the beginning can help you and give you a nice visual confirmation, but it's not going to replace the necessity of developing the coordination to be that specific. It's kind of like the confirmation and the guide, and then you still will need to develop the coordination. Everything you do in singing is truly a coordination. Let me see if we got another question that I can find here. This is a very specific question. Have you ever had a student with a tongue tie or recovering from phrenectomy who was able to practice overtone singing? And I think this is, do you know what tongue tie, some people, and this part of the tongue is short, so they can't really move their tongue very much, or they have an operation to allow them to move the tongue. That's called tongue-tied in English. The tongue is tied to the bottom of the mouth. So they go in and usually will do a slight incision to release it. Usually it's done in small children. But basically that's the question. Have you ever worked with anybody that was recovering from that or had that issue as a child?
I once had a student, an overtone singing student, who had this problem, but he had no surgery. So when he tried to pull out the tongue, it was kept here, and he had this shape of the tongue. But overtone singing still worked. He could replace this upwards movement by movement of the side of the tongue. He could raise the side and then move the muscles that pull down the bottom of the mouth. So like this here. You can create two spaces, left and right of the frenulum, and create a resonance chamber as well.
Yeah, it's amazing how the body compensates for different things. I got a question from Anna Crew here. How is it possible to do my overtones louder? How long does it take to get them to get louder?
It depends. My fastest students needed 2 hours.
Wow.
And the slowest needed about 3 months. So
that's really not, that really doesn't sound like a lot of time, really.
No.
So how much were these people practicing a day?
Yeah, this is the main question. Or let's say it's not the amount of time you practice a day, but that you practice every day. 5 minutes every day is better than 3 hours a week.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that so much. It's my theory as well. It's actually also scientifically proven, right? Just consistency and the concentration and the quality of practice is more important than quantity.
Yeah.
I've got a good question, a very specific question also from Anat. She said, can you talk about palatal position in overtone singing? The position of the hard palate, or the
I'm not sure I understand the question. Can
the top of the mouth, the
Yeah.
weicher Gaumen, harter Gaumen.
Hmm.
How does that interact in overtone seating? Hard palate, soft palate, uvula, velum.
There are several techniques to separate the chambers. This chamber is always involved in all techniques, but then you can get an amplification of the sounds from here by rising the back part of the tongue. Then you have a French sounding vowel like oh, ah, 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 ah. Then the back part of the tongue goes to the transition between the hard palate and the soft palate. And then I have a technique called J technique. I put the tip of the tongue down, and this part of the tongue here goes to the alveolar ridge. Here, 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 here. And then you can move this part, roll your tongue on the palate backwards and go between the two techniques. And then the palate plays some role. But in L technique, it doesn't. You don't move the tip of your tongue, so it's always on the front part.
Yeah, I think it's amazing.
One important part is the soft palate goes upwards, so the nose cave is closed in overtone singing. All the sound passes through the resonance chambers here, and nothing goes through your nose. But still, you can sing overtones through your nose as well. This is called a nose technique, and it works like this here. With a closed mouth. And this is also a very good exercise for your back part of the tongue. You pull out your tongue and close your lips. Then you have M sound. You do some exercises with your pharynx part of the tongue and amplify overtones through your nose.
That was brilliant. That was brilliant. I did not expect that, but I think it's great. I think actually doing great overtone singing training will mobilize, I believe, the tongue and improve its coordination level. It should help any singer to get more dynamic movement and avoid tongue tension in their singing. Got another. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sure about that.
Yeah, it seems logical. I'm looking forward to doing these specific exercises as well, and I'm sure I'll be a little bit uncoordinated in the beginning, but looking forward to working on it. Here's a question from Gary. When classical teachers discuss maintaining an open throat, they often speak of avoiding constriction in the pharynx. Your MRI demo, though, seems to show that agility in the back of the tongue is equally or perhaps even more important in achieving front-to-back space behind the tongue. The genioglossus muscle at work? Thanks for your presentations. Very fascinating. So the question is that the genioglossus muscle at work?
I don't know this name of a muscle, so I don't know exactly. But usually constriction in the throat is related to the ring muscle. So you put the false vocal chords together. This constriction, like ah, and this is not related to the tongue movement. You can move your tongue independently, and the tongue is connected to the epiglottis. So if you move your tongue to the front, your epiglottis opens, and if you go backwards, it closes. So the epiglottis might have a stronger effect even on the sound than the tongue. But you cannot see it on the MRI because it's cartilage and no bone.
Yeah, that would be fascinating. We got to get another imagery where we can watch the epiglottis move. But it's a good point. You know, it just looks like there's nothing there on the MRI, but there are a few other things there. Let me show you just a quick screen share of what this guy with the genioglossus muscle. I don't know if you can see it. It's this one right here. This part of the tongue is what he's referring to.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is the most important part for L technique, to create the resonance space under the tongue. I used to teach this to my student with his nose flutes. Do you know these?
I haven't used one before. Maybe you can tell us about it.
This is a flute where you blow with the air through your nose, but you don't get a sound. You get a sound only if you put this part here in front of your mouth, and then you get a resonance in your mouth, and this creates the tone. And then you can train the resonance in your mouth cave, and if you put up your tongue to L position, you can do it with a space under the tongue. And you can learn how to control the pitch with your space. It's exactly what you need for overtone singing. So this is a very nice tool for this. And you also can use it to have fun by changing the resonance chambers quickly.
Hey, you're gonna get people going into the woods calling birds with that. That's amazing. I love that. So that I think it's really fascinating what you said, that this is a tool, obviously, but to learn to controlling the resonance chamber, the formant chamber here, and also in the back. And I think the other part of the question is really saying that the classical singers talk about an open throat, and I've experienced this, that a lot of them believe they're not moving anything back here at all because they're trying to keep it open. Yeah. But open throat is really a description of what it feels like when there's no tension back here. But it's always moving, right?
Most people don't have a feeling for the pharynx part of the tongue. This is probably because this part of the tongue is very young. It was only invented by nature a couple of 100,000 years ago, maybe 200,000 or 300,000 years ago, and we are only now starting feeling it. You can test it if you do this kind of sound, E, 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 very sharp E, E. How does it feel, the space? Do you feel a wide space in your pharynx? Then you actually feel your tongue. But if you have the feeling E is something small, then you have an impression of what is here, but it's not the physically right impression. And this shows that you still are developing from Stone Age to modern times. But if you start overtone singing, then you do the next step in evolution. You start controlling this new invention of nature. And maybe if we more control our tongue and our resonances instead of talking too much, then we get on a new level of communication in general. There's one fascinating thing. If you copy the tongue position in the pharynx of some people by copying their sound, exactly their sound, you can feel how they feel. This is kind of communication. It's empathic listening.
Oh, I think that's very fascinating because there are universal facial expressions.
Hmm.
No matter where you go in the world, there are 7 universal facial expressions if you can communicate with those facial expressions. But I personally believe that it's really important for singers to learn how to connect emotionally and layer their sound production, their voice, with emotions. Because, and this is, it kind of goes along with what you're saying, the listener, their brain will automatically hear that frequency spectrum, like we were talking about, the overtones, the fundamentals, the harmonics, and without really needing the words, feel the emotion.
Yeah.
It's super fascinating, and that's why I believe, even if you don't understand the language, you hear opera. Opera's in how many languages, right? Or you hear another singer from another country, you still feel the emotion. So it's so important, this connection, isn't it?
Yeah, and it goes to a different level if you start understanding the new part. This is really the newest invention. When we do this when we start as children. I can show you one. Maybe I find it quickly. I have a picture how the pharynx looks in a baby. It's completely different. It looks like a monkey. We are born as monkeys, and then we turn into Homo sapiens with about 1.5 or 2 years. A moment. Yes, here it is. I share my full screen for a moment, so it's easier to find. This is a human, and this is a monkey. So you see, the epiglottis is touching the uvula here. So there's no pharynx tongue, or a very short pharynx tongue. And then about 200,000 years ago, the whole throat moved down. This part of the bone went inside, and then we started walking upright. So this is somehow connected, walking upright and a lowered throat. And then we have this space where we share air, breathing air, and food. So this has to be much quicker and much more flexible here in order to avoid swallowing food into your lungs than here. And now the baby looks like this here. This is a newborn human without a pharynx tongue and the throat like a monkey. So this human being can breathe and drink at the same time.
Huh, amazing.
And when we are adults, or this starts lowering with about 2 years. And this is exactly the moment when the baby starts walking, going upright. And then we have this space, and we cannot swallow and breathe at the same time anymore. But we can start producing completely new set of sounds, which is controlled by a big part of our brain. So we need a lot of energy in our brain to control this. But it was worth it, obviously, because we survived the last 200,000 years.
Yeah, thank goodness it was worth it. No, that's fascinating. I've never seen those comparisons, but very fascinating. Also fascinating, the connection with upright movement and speech development, kind of all happen at the same time. Um, we had a question. I think we've covered this question, but the question is it helpful to teach a brand new student about dark and bright vowels via the VoceVista and learn about stylistic differences with the app? Or is it usually more helpful to only start to use VoceVista once they can make and discern bright and dark vowels? I mean, this is kind of a matter of opinion, but what VoceVista does for sure is gives you a very clear visual feedback, a visual image for your student of what they're doing. And I think any beginning student can benefit from that. But again, the student still has to develop the coordination of producing precise vowels and being able to transition through those. So I think it can be used for a beginning student. I would probably use it more as a visual tool, visual aid to educate them on what's going on. But they still need to develop their coordination. And some people will also argue that if you're just teaching them the right vowels for the style they're singing, they're going to develop that coordination and be activating the right harmonics and overtones anyway. But I think it's always good to, any tool we have that enhances learning, and visual learning is very important, can be useful.
But as you see in this example I showed you with Thomas Hampson, that it can be a more slowly way. You still need this kind of approach as well. You need to integrate all these feelings into your vowels as well. But sometimes it's much quicker if you just know which kind of movements leads you to the right vowel, and then you can start feeling immediately. You don't need 1 or 2 weeks to develop this. And you can use VoceVista on different levels. So you have this level without recording anything, just the theory of everything, and then you can use it for giving examples of the vowels. So if you know you need some of the, you can use it to reproduce the main vowels, or you can change the language here. You can go to Italian, and then you have these Italian vowels. And you immediately see where the resonances are. And then you can compare them to different pitches and see if they match with the overtones. And on any pitch, you can play those vowels and then copy them. So I think it's especially interesting for beginners, more than for advanced singers.
Yeah, thank you for showing that. I think probably a lot of teachers just aren't familiar enough with the software or understanding the theory behind it to feel comfortable using it on a regular basis. Here's a question from Sharif El Daba. Can we have more clarification about what is meant by resonance in comparison to overtone? So is there a difference between resonance when you're talking about resonances and overtones? How do those compare? What would you say?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. The question is, can we have more clarification about what is meant by resonance in comparison to overtone?
Yes, sure. This question comes a lot. So this shows me that it's not very common knowledge that resonance and overtones are completely separate things. I share the screen again. So if you produce any sound, let's say I have a recording here of some music instrument I played and recorded. So you have overtones here, you have harmonics of 2 different tones, and you have no resonance frequency that is changed here. And now I apply this sound. This has nothing to do with my vocal cords. And I apply this to my mouth. My mouth is now only a resonance chamber, And you will see that I don't change the overtones, but I change the loudness of overtones. So resonance only change the loudness distribution and not the overtone themselves. So nothing is changing here, but the loudness is changing quite interestingly. So what you see here, did I share the right part?
Yeah, we're seeing that.
You see the overtones don't change, but the loudness changes. And you see some pattern moving here, and these are the patterns of the resonance frequencies. And if I separate this from a sound has a pitch. If I use a noise, then suddenly those patterns turn into tones. And this sometimes makes the confusion, I think. So I do the same. You don't hear a pitch now, but if I change them very slightly, then you suddenly hear a pitch. And you hear Frère Jacques by only resonances of a noise, but there is no melody, actually. You hear this melody, but there's no tone. Then the resonance frequency suddenly turns into a pitch in our mind. And this is what I mean when people hardly ever heard about resonance as a pitch. They are described as a pitch, but they are not perceived as a pitch. Only if you move them very slightly. And there's a very little movement in the vowel perception compared to the pitch perception. How to explain? It's not easy to explain. If I sing Amen in two ways, Amen, Amen. I sang 2 times the same word, but I changed the pitch of my second resonance by a full step. Amen, Amen. So if I apply my Broca center to listen to the vowel, I don't hear much of a difference. Amen, 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 Amen. If I speak, I do the same movement. Amen, 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 Amen.
I think those are some amazing examples, and definitely help clear up that question. But it seems like a question that people need to revisit again and again and again until it just at one point clicks. There's so many things to be focusing on.
If you listen to these 2 sounds, it sounds like that I add an overtone. But actually, the overtones are there all the time. I just make one louder, then softer again, and the next one louder and softer again. They never vanished. They only changed the vowel, the loudness distribution. But our brain can hear them then as a pitch. But what we actually hear is the pitch of the resonance. And sometimes it's hard to distinguish between the overtones and the resonance frequencies.
The overtones are always part of the sound package or the sound layers, and the resonance that we create inside with the different vowels and position the pharynx of the tongue, when the resonance matches, then it gets louder. Is that a simple way to sum it up?
Yes.
It's extremely difficult to sum that up. Look, we have, this is a fantastic question. If you are willing to answer one more question, then we'll wrap it up with this last question. And I can tell people are just really loving this, because there's probably, I have another 62 questions after this one, so we're not going to get to all of them today. But this is a question from Doug Gardner, and I know Doug's very, it's, for me it's almost it gets to that point. It's kind of the question of the chicken and the egg. What came first? And I was thinking about this yesterday, and I said the egg. The egg comes first. Without the egg, there's no chicken. And then people are like, nah, yeah, well, who laid the egg, right? But if you look at evolution, that new chicken laying, the chicken that lays the actual chicken egg came from another egg down the road that wasn't a chicken. So the answer is the egg came first. But it's just a little bit of comedy here. You can all disagree with me, but let me read this question. Doug Gardner. So that's the question I'm reading. I'll just read it again. The vocal cord's first responsibility is to meet the requirements of pitch. So are we, by focusing on the effect of the effect of the fundamental source, are we ignoring the cause? You said last week that it was proven that overtones are created at the level of the vocal cords. So then can we say that the vowels are also created at the vocal cords? For example, in the Thomas Hampson demo, the woman singer's problem with her vowel was not only a hearing problem, but the problem was a registration problem. I understand that the voice is coupled system between the source and the resonators, but could manipulating the vocal tract with overt controls create problems with the registration? Thank you. Wonderful presentation.
Yes, it's two several questions and several answers. A vowel is a thing we have to redefine. We have to find a new definition if we apply my idea of resonance matching overtones. A vowel usually is a part of a language. There's no natural thing like a vowel. It's only that we define a certain sound, a vowel, and it's related to a language. And then in phonology, they divide the different sounds in different vowels, and this is different in every language. So for Swedish speakers, for example, very close vowels to each other are different vowels, and those different vowels are only one vowel in Italian, for example. So this is a subjective definition of a vowel. Then you have the vowel related to written language, and then it's a sign. And then you have the IPA signs for vowels, and then it's also defined by a sign, but this sign is somewhere in this area of resonances. And what I did was I defined the vowel by only the resonance frequencies. So if I go to this chart, I ignore overtones. I just say we have the space of resonances. Second resonance on 1000 Hertz, and first resonance on 500. Then we have this sound is completely independent on how we define the vowel. Italians would say this is something like this, and Germans would say this is a little bit different, and even different Germans would say it's different vowels. These are all German scientists who defined where the vowel is. But the resonance never changed. So as soon as I hear the resonance as a pitch, I can define this place. And this is a certain place and with a certain sound. It never changes. It only is defined differently by different authors. So if I apply Swedish to it, it's almost for them. And it's all for Italian. But the sound never changed. It's only how we perceive it, how that changed it. So I define a vowel as a, a couple, what is it? What is it called in English? I have two tones, two notes sounding together as a resonance. But then I have...
Are you thinking of Verkupplung?
no, not Verkupplung, Zweiklang.
Zweiklang, two-tone?
Yes, two-tone sound. So this sound never changes. Every place on this area here has a certain sound. But sometimes we perceive this sound here as a vowel E, or sometimes as a vowel R, or whatever. The perception of the vowel is different from the source. So I have this sound and I keep this sound, but if I change the pitch that activates the resonance of this place, then it might be that I hear a different vowel. So the places where the overtones are, this is pure physics. You cannot change the places of the vowels. If you have a certain pitch, you have a certain distribution of the overtones in this field. But if I match this sound here, it might be that an Italian perceives a different vowel sound here than a Swedish listener, even though I'm singing exactly the same sound. So for me, a vowel is this double frequency. So the resonance on here, on G6 and A4, exactly makes this sound. But it depends on the constellation of words and what we are expecting, which kind of vowel we hear on this place.
Right.
I hope this makes a little bit more sense now.
Yeah, it definitely helped me evolve my understanding. I think the part of the question was, the vowels also registration problem. He said, could manipulating the vocal tract create problems with registration? But actually, getting the vocal tract in the right position, where you get this cross, like the target, getting that in the right position for the right frequency, which would be manipulating the resonators. That's actually where the instrument's going to relax and produce that vowel at that pitch the most efficiently.
And then it goes, there's a connection between singing techniques and physics. For example, if you speak about registration, this register, this is a term that is used in very different ways, but I think I'm quite close to your kind of explanation. There is one paper published by Tietze who says that if you go exactly to the resonance point, this might cause turbulation on the vocal cords. So in order to stabilize your register, lower, you have to be a little bit under the resonance or even higher. This is what we saw in here in this interpretation of Barbara Bonnet. She amplified, I go a little bit closer to here. She amplified her voice only on the tip of the vibrato. So she had her resonance here a little bit higher than the pitch. She was not exactly meeting this this partial. She was not exactly here on the point, but a little bit higher. So I think this is what Tietze told. The physics are telling how the vibration works. And if you go exactly onto the resonance, then it might give some problems. So you still can apply this diagram then, but the instruction would be to go with the resonance a little bit higher. But as soon as you are close to this pronunciation, then your body starts working it out in the right way. So this diagram is physics, and this is not singing. It's only helping the singer to go in the right direction.
Yeah, I think that's always important to remember. But it's very fascinating. It's an excellent example of why vibrato is used in classical singing, and because it actually can make the voice louder or perceptively louder, and is being so precise can actually cause instability, which, you know, you could argue that vibrato is an instability. It's going up and down. Anyway, very fascinating stuff. It's that old question: what comes first, the chicken or the egg? But as Doug, in my opinion, you have in your question, I think it's great to think about. And if we're just thinking about the vocal tract space, then we could be ignoring the effect of inertance, that the sound and the vocal folds work together, and they need to continue to work together. How would you say that in your words, Wolfgang?
In the same way. I always think in waves. So there's a wave coming from here with a very high speed, 1,300 kilometers per hour, and it suddenly goes to a kind of door here, and the pressure goes in all directions. So another wave goes back to your vocal cords, and if you have a resonance, then this comes exactly in the same the pressure constellation. So this kind of sound stabilizes the new opening of the vocal cords and makes it a smooth movement. And this is the reason. So I would say where everything is connected. So if I am in resonance, I get dynamic effects on the vocal cords as well. And if I'm out of resonance, I get problems with my voice. And if I'm straight on resonance, I also get problems. And I need to know where those places are. And I think it helps if you know where the overtones are related to the vowels.
I completely agree. I know I'm having to bounce back and forth by clicking because the software is not automatically switching for us. But thank you, Wolfgang. It's amazing, and there's so much learning in this live stream today in the Q&A. And if you're a younger singer that maybe is exposed to this the first time, you might just be like, my brain's exploding here. Right? But don't worry, it's going to come little by little. And you know, learning to sing, sometimes it's like learning a new language. You got to learn a new vocabulary. And today we're really on the scientific side. So for everybody that is at that level in their understanding, I'm sure this has been extremely fascinating, wonderful discussion. And if you're newer, I just want to comfort you and say when you're working with a good coach, you know, we're going to be working on all of these concepts without really saying the full layer. And think of it like your sound. I think this is a great example. If you have your what's called the fundamental in your science, that's the strongest pitch, and that's really what we hear. Our brain focuses in on ah. Okay, now we've sung what we call in our language a pitch, but that note has all of the other layers. It's already there. So you're doing that, and when we're learning how to sing, it's like the same thing. We're getting that first layer. Everything else is there, and you're just going to discover it little by little as you go. So enjoy the journey, keep working. None of this is impossible. Everybody is the same, pretty much the same anatomically. We all have little challenges, but as Wolfgang pointed out today, he had a student with whose tongue couldn't go out only that far and not all the way up to the roof of his mouth. So your body is going to find ways to adjust, and it's a wonderful journey. I thank everybody that asked so many wonderful questions today. Honestly, it's been just a great session. I know many of you are interested in learning more, so please go to our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel, click notifications to get notified. Also, go to our Facebook page, Singing Revealed. Follow us there so you get notified. And we have a group. We have the group Singing Revealed Nation on Facebook. So join our group, stay in touch with us, and you can write us anytime at singingrevealed@gmail.com. Really easy to remember. And then we're happy to keep you up to date on upcoming courses, workshops, teaching, learning opportunities for teachers and for singers. So there's a lot coming up in the next few months. And I love working with Wolfgang, so you can expect to see Wolfgang here again, or me and Wolfgang together. I'm hoping in Germany in the future as well. But let me invite you to, everybody who's still here, to give Wolfgang a big round of virtual applause. You can even take yourself, let me see, I'll take you all off of mute, so if I can't do it. Anyway. Unmute all. I'll let you go ahead. Take yourselves off of mute and make some noise, some little shouting here for Wolfgang.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Been such a pleasure, Wolfgang. Thank you so much. And thank you for tuning in. Please stay in touch with us and send us any questions you may have. We're here for you and look forward to seeing you. Next week is Singing Revealed members only live stream. So if you're not a member yet and want to access our archive and tune into the members only live streams, then please join us. So the first 2 Saturdays of the month, we're going to do live streams. The 3rd Thursday and with also a Voice Masters live stream, and the fourth week of the month will be the members only live stream, except for in April when Easter weekend is that first week of April. Then if there's 5 weeks, we just shift it back. Have a great time, everybody. If you enjoyed today, remember to follow and like. We'll see you next time. Let me put on some Harry Styles music for you, and have a wonderful weekend.